As a mother, it is my responsibility to help my kids avoid danger at all costs, is what I would say if I was overprotective of my kids. Sure, I protect them from the necessary dangers like strangers or wild animals, but my three sisters and my husband help alongside me, so what's the harm? Well, a few days before this, I was in my room getting ready for the day and preparing to watch my youngest son for as long as I need to before he goes to bed. He is about 10 years old and is a computer kid that usually spends his time coding on that thing called Scratch. I was sleeping when my son started to play these gotcha games, and was and still is into the amazing digital circus, and was playing these easy to make gotcha games. It didn't cost any in-game currency, so he just kept pulling and pulling until he found a new version of this character named Pomni. And later on during the day, he came up to me and looked frightened like he just saw a ghost. He told me that something scary happened on his gotcha game, and I just went to go check on it. My oldest child, Brandon, walked up to me with a more confused look on his face and showed me the iPad just as I opened the door to my room to get the device, and asked one simple question. "Excuse me, but why is a screamer on Axel's iPad?" I looked down and, yep, it was a screamer. It earlier was not recognizable, as a Pomni was screaming into the camera and looked heavily injured. At this time, I never recognized the voice because it was just nonsensical weeping and angered-infused threats towards the player. My poor baby got jump-scared by the same gotcha game he was using for over 3 days now, with a very gory image at his age. And I was angry. I thanked Brandon and searched through the game to find where this jump scare occurred. Yet there was nothing. So I asked Axel a few questions on how did he get the screamer to activate, and he responded with only this: monochrome. I had no idea what this meant, so I just took his word for it. I asked permission to reset his progress and he nodded yes, so I refreshed the page and started working through the damn thing. And it was long and agonizing too. I don't know how my son managed to have the patience and time to do this. There were lots of versions of Pomni, some being called Blomni, who was colored blue and had a more stern expression to her face, and Yelami, who was yellow and looked confident. This was an interesting one since all these variants were handmade, all with considerable effort for a crappy game like this. Eventually, after 20 straight minutes of pulling Pomnis, I eventually got the thing I wanted to talk about: monochromy. Monochromy, like the rest, was colored with one shade of the color represented, but has a few key differences that unnerved me the first time I saw her. Her face looked sorrowful, and almost completely dulled of joy. Parts of her clothing was a single color of dark gray. That was the whole outline of her. She looked decrepit, and almost hollow. The usual color spiral spinning in the background also changed to a monotonous and grayed-out still image, as a reversed version of the amazing digital circus theme song began to play. I continued, and eventually found the biographies for the characters, and trudged through hundreds upon hundreds of these recolors, each having the same backstory of this character named Kane, cloning Pomni, and resulting with a unique clone with a unique personality. And before I could open the biography, I noticed something about the profiles. They all sported a look to the camera, but the ones near Monochromy had these expressions of resentment towards her icon, as if they hated her with every fiber of their being. Monochromy herself was looking forward, her profile being the only one animated. She was breathing deeply. I felt sick to my stomach knowing I had to check this thing's page and risk getting screamed at, but I had to solve what happened to my precious angel. So I clicked on it, and I got the screamer I never knew I expected. A disgusting mess that made my blood run cold. The screamer was Pomni mutilating herself, tearing out her eyes, her teeth, her tongue, as she ripped her clothes off to reveal flesh that didn't bleed, and bones that were rusted like metal. Her screaming sounded as though a man was being tortured, crying hysterical as he was screaming. It sounded like the microphone was right there on the mouth, and the terrifying thing about it was that I remember that voice. It was from my ex-husband, who tried too hard to please me, and never ended up being there for our first child, and normally would get back at me by keying my car. It was months before I put a restraining order on him, and this was his voice I was hearing. But the worst part was what he was saying, and this is all I could remember.
Marilyn Carmella, my sweetheart, I fucking hate you. With every fiber of my being, I hate you for what you did to me all those years ago. I helped you clean the car. I took you on the nicest trips. I helped you around the house! And yet you still filed for that divorce. Do you understand how damn lucky you are to have that first kid with me? I tried my hardest. I tried everything to please you like the pig you are. But you always said that you wanted the littlest of things. The littlest of things! I tried so goddamn hard to be a father, and this is how I get repaid! A fucking divorce! I hope you enjoyed your little shit being scarred for the rest of his disgusting existence with that douchebag of a husband you have, Marilyn. I hope you burn in hell where your entire fucking family are, you little piece of insufficient fucking son of a bitch, cocksucking!
It then just devolved into nonsensical ramblings about me and my family, and I was just disgusted by the lengths this freak will go just to get back at me. I eventually reported this gacha game, before saving the other Pomnis onto my kid's iPad, so he can remember the good times. And he has since moved past then, and in a few days, he was arrested for endangering children with this game. Apparently my husband heard all of them, and immediately called the cops. And soon enough, he was now in jail. And what does this mean for me? I've been more cautious on letting Axel play these types of games without me watching, but thanks to that little incident, he doesn't really play those anymore. Never let your children go on your sketchy websites like how I did. Remember, there are things that lie ahead on the internet. Terrible and awful things. Good night, and sleep tight. That was What Lies Online, written by Alex Codex. Review time. That was a pretty good story. It provided plenty of good messages. The first one being that this was kind of a commentary on how Gen Alpha brain rot content can affect your kids, whether it's on YouTube or in the Play Store. And based on the content, it can pretty much scar them, plant a seed of trauma in their head. It's quite convincing, in a sense. And I also like how the protagonist here is more dynamic. Like, in the beginning, they're sort of careless as to what their kids look at, but after her 10-year-old child gets traumatized by this scary Pomni, she sort of gives off a warning to others in the ending. It makes me think, she seems to have learned her lesson. That's quite nice. I like to see that in characters of these stories, especially protagonists. It was quite well done. I also liked the ideas at play here with the game itself. It being just a simple gacha game that is simply coded. Of course, the dad, the ex-husband, would choose something like this to code because it's easy enough for him to handle. But one thing I didn't like about the story were the implications. Those implications being with the father creating this game. How did he know for certain that his kid would find it? Like, how did he know that this kid would end up coming across that game and playing it? Like, was he like crossing his fingers, hoping for the worst to be inflicted upon him? I don't completely understand that. It kind of leaves behind a plot error that leaves more coincidences than anything. Um, that's the main flaw I have with the story. But overall, I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10 because of that one inconsistency. But with that being said, this is simply my personal opinion. We all have our opinions regarding these pastas. What did you think of the pasta? What would you have done to improve upon it? And as always, I will see you all in the next narration. I love you all. Bless. And also, one last thing to the parents watching this, to the guardians watching this video, watch over your child's content. Monitor them. You don't want them to end up the same way this poor 10-year-old did. Take care.